My name is Terry Hedden. This is Course 201 of From the Ground Up, Disaster Recovery Blueprint Series. Our goal with this series is very simple, to help you create a profitable and successful practice selling backup and disaster recovery solutions. Course 2 is all about bringing those solutions to market. The solutions that we identified in Course 1, we're going to bring to market in Course 2. This session is sponsored by CompTIA. CompTIA has more information on their website on this solution as well as many others. Protecting yourself. Business continuity and disaster recovery is unlike some other solutions in the sense that using it helps you not only become more confident in the solution and thus more applicable and successful selling it, but also by using it, you're going to make sure that your business is going to be around in the event of a disaster. By employing business continuity solutions, if there's a disaster in your area, like a fire, flood, or some sort of a natural event, your business is going to be operational, which allows you to help your customers when they need you most. So you want to make sure that you use the solutions you sell. The other main reason to do it is because, in general, people sell what they know. And the reason is simple. Knowledge equals confidence equals sales. By knowing the solution, and you know it best because you use it, you're going to become more confident in the solution and thus more successful selling it. So by using it, you're going to be more successful in selling it. The other reason, of course, is just like all disaster recovery solutions, you are susceptible to the same downside risks when there are disasters in your area. You could damage your company's reputation if you maybe lose your ability to become operational because you don't have a backup. You could become litigated. You could get sued by your customers or your vendors because you're no longer operational, or maybe your environment has been hacked or that type of thing. Any kind of downtime can obviously affect your business operations, which can lead to loss of clients and potentially even going out of business. So MSPs and VARs should eat their own dog food. There's many reasons to do so, but by employing disaster recovery and business continuity solutions, you're going to be more successful selling them and more protected in the event of a disaster. So with the solution, you should also accommodate your business continuity and disaster recovery plan. To fail to plan is to plan to fail. So you should go through the same exact operation that you do for your customers to ensure that they're successful and safe in their backup strategy for yourself. So you want to assess, plan, implement, test, and monitor your backup solution. So you need to assess your needs and keep in mind that IT service providers have a unique business environment. Some of the time their systems may be hosted by other people, or they may have their own private cloud, they may have a remote workforce, or they may have all of their environment into maybe a data center. The reality is every situation is unique for every reseller, just like it is for all of our clients. So you have to assess your business needs, both in the current state as well as in the future. You then have to plan, okay, so through different scenarios, how are you going to continue operating? How are you going to operate your business in the event of a disaster? You then, of course, implement your solution and then periodically test it to make sure that it is working properly and things did work out with respect to the plan. You're able to recover in the event of a disaster, and you're able to continue operations in the event of business downtime or system downtime. And then, of course, like all backup solutions, you need to monitor it. You can't expect what you don't inspect. And if you're not able to monitor your solutions, you're not able to ensure that they're continually up and operational 24/7. So how do you meet your client business continuity and disaster recovery expectations? First and most importantly, this practice needs to be your own. Every MSP is unique. We serve different customer segments with respect to size of company, industry, geographic market. Everyone has a unique value proposition. The key is to demonstrate and price your services accordingly. For instance, always understand that value is the business value that your solution provides, not just the technical aspects of the solution, but all the services and intangible things that you wrap around to create the true end result for your customer. Because remember, every customer seeks only one thing with their business recovery and disaster recovery and business continuity solution, which is that they want the least cost option they can to achieve peace of mind. Everybody wants peace of mind. Business continuity and disaster recovery is not one of those investments that people look forward to making. It's a necessary evil. In fact, it's like an insurance policy. But by putting in the right solution, which is a combination of the talents that you have, the services that you offer, and the technical solutions that you employ, you provide a unique value proposition for your customers. You want to make sure you brand everything you do. Don't push the vendor's brand because, in fact, the vendor actually is not what customers buy. Customers are buying that total solution, that peace of mind. No technology really operates on its own, does it? The reality is all of us have services that we wrap around each technology to make it something that the customer can use to become more successful, more profitable, or in this case, more safe. So what's the formula for channel success? You want to customize all the collateral necessary for planning, creating policies, processes, and support for your particular business. The employees that you have, the processes you have, the systems that you use to run your business, and also the process by supporting your customers. You want to incorporate vendor templates, but make them unique. The reality is most vendors care about their product more than you should, and certainly more than your customers do. So you want to make sure that your marketing collateral speaks to the value you provide, not just the technical features and benefits. Customers don't buy features and benefits in backup and disaster recovery, just like they don't buy it in anything else. The reality is they're buying you. They're buying the total solution. They're buying the peace of mind that only you can offer. But vendors do have money to invest in creating vendor templates. So a lot of the times, if you can't necessarily put your logo and rebrand what it is they're providing you, you can still you can take some of the imagery, the graphics, the charts, or just the copy and put them on your individual marketing pieces. Okay, so you can create your own intellectual property by leveraging what the vendor gives you. So the key is that you package what it is you're selling and present it to your customers as a total solution, right? Solutions in this sense obviously include all the technical capabilities of the software and hardware that you're putting in, or the cloud solution, but also all the services, the professional services that you wrap around that solution. You want to package it. In my MSP, I chose to brand everything with my own name. For instance, it was Infinity Managed Recovery. Offsite, managed recovery onsite. Offsite was offsite backup, onsite was onsite backup, but we called it managed recovery. And that proved invaluable when we got into situations where our vendors failed us, the solutions failed our business, but because we didn't promise our customers a particular technical solution, we were able to evolve our business and adopt new technologies without getting the customer's permission. So it really effectively helped us become more agile by private labeling our solutions. Of course, you never want to do that without ensuring that you're protected from a legal perspective. We happen to have very good contracts that limited our liability to 1 month of service. If you don't have good contracts, you want to make sure that you are projecting all of the responsibility onto those technology companies so that the customers don't sue you. But to be honest with you, they're going to sue you anyway. So make sure that you have a technical solution and a contract that's bulletproof. Limit your liability as much as you possibly can. Very few customers expect anything more than maybe 1 month of service or something like that. I think in no case was our limitation of liability greater than the amount of money the customer paid us for that solution. That seemed to be a fair thing. The only exception that we made was when we got an insurance policy, we put a clause in there that said that up to the amount beyond what the insurance company provided, we're only going to limit you to what we've charged you for that service. So on the product packaging, you want to make sure that you're looking at it from a solutions perspective. What are your value adds? What do you bring to the table? You want to brand reference architectures and package everything as a net new product to your offering, right? It helps you charge more if you have a better brand associated with that, and you've packaged everything in a bundle perhaps that your customers can perceive as solving one of their business problems. Packaging also helps you differentiate yourself from competition. Everybody's got very similar technical solutions. Let's face it, in the field of disaster recovery, all of the technical solutions are fairly comparable, and certainly all the resellers' implementations of those solutions are almost identical. Where people differentiate themselves is mainly in bundling those services and technologies together, but also by marketing and changing the perceived value by creating a very good brand and a compelling marketing piece that demonstrates the value equal to or greater than what it actually is. In services perspective, you want to make sure that you stand apart from the crowd. The reality is no one does it like you do it. All of us have a competitive advantage in service. Customers know that, they appreciate that, and they value that. That's one of the reasons that the most successful marketing you do, it actually wraps in your reseller brand along with the technical company themselves. So Microsoft marketing Microsoft is not as successful as you marketing Microsoft. Keep that in mind. Vendors increasingly are becoming aware of the importance of bundling in services with hardware to create a more compelling value proposition and thus a more compelling opportunity for the customer to procure those services. Every service provider has unique attributes. The reality is each of us has industry competence or technical competence that differentiates ourselves from our competitors. So if you're one of those providers that has maybe an industry knowledge, talk about that industry knowledge, market that industry knowledge, make sure that it's on your website and in your marketing collateral. You want to make sure that you're demonstrating your unique attributes and differentiating yourselves based on the value that you provide. And conspicuous branding is also important to your business. You want to slide in your brand, your logo, and everything you do. Always be branding, ABC. It's one of those things that resellers fail to realize, the importance of their brand. So you want to make sure that your brand is evident in the shirts that you wear and the business cards you have, and do not underestimate the value of perception. If you have a bad website, then you have to prove that you're not a bad company, and that's sometimes difficult to do. A great website is very inexpensive, as is a great business card, as is a great maybe one or marketing slick type thing. It's not very expensive to create a very impressive professional image on those type of things, but they make a tremendous amount of difference in the market. So creating a very positive first impression can be the thing that differentiates you from winning and losing. From a product packaging perspective, professional services are really products. Increasing the technology is irrelevant, especially as you move toward the cloud and commoditization of technology. Professional services are really where the product is. Customers are buying your services and perceive those as being equal or more important than the products underlying and supported by those services. So you want to assign a brand to what it is you're doing to build customer familiarization and to create maybe a good, better, best scenario for your customers. Now, we're not fans of the bronze, silver, gold, platinum way that a lot of managed service providers use to differentiate their products, because you're falling into the commoditization of what it is you do. If you think about it, gold, silver, blonde, and platinum, gold, silver, platinum, and bronze are all commodities, in fact. So it's almost logical that people perceive them as commodities. But the real issue is that every person uses the same metal-based strategy for differentiating products, even when they're apples to oranges. So it's natural for a customer to say, listen, I'm comparing your gold product to their gold product. They're cheaper than yours. And of course, it helps a lot if they're trying to compare their gold product to your premium product or your basic product, as a way for them to physically see the difference in what it is you're doing. So how do you meet customer needs? The reality is, you have to set and establish expectations and manage expectations for your customers, not only in the performance of the duties to implement and manage those solutions, but also in the outcome. That's extremely important when it comes to business disaster recovery and business continuity. How long will it take for you to cover data? How long will it take for you to bring the business back operational from a business continuity perspective in the event of a disaster? And how granular can you recover information? Can you bring back an individual email or an individual file? Or do you have to recover back maybe an entire drive or an entire backup of a server, for example? So you want to provide complete plans, emphasize your unique value, and create detailed performance agreements to make sure that customers can physically see the value that you provide. So many resellers fall into the trap of creating a simple agreement, something that looks simple, easy, short. The reality is, short and brief conveys less value in general than something more substantive, something more professional looking. I like to use a grid mentality where you have check marks that outline different services that are included in each solution, different capabilities technically that are included in each solution. It's a great way for you to differentiate the different offerings that you have. If you think about it, disaster recovery and business continuity have fundamental differences that you can convey in an easy to look at, easy to compare matrix by all of your solutions in one capability. So it's important for you to differentiate and go into detail on each of those performance differences in a professional manner, in a proposal. You're not going to sell a very high-end disaster recovery or business continuity solution using a quote. You also want to develop ongoing service relationships. There is a reason that managed service providers tend to be more profitable and more stable as businesses. The reality is there's an ongoing service component to almost every technical solution you put in there. Don't forget to wrap those services into a recurring monthly or annual fee that makes sure that you continue to generate profitable service revenue with that client forever. At Marketopia, we certainly proclaim that you're better off to wrap services into bundles where people have an ongoing relationship with you, and by getting rid of the service, they get rid of the technical solution as well. So by bundling it into a total solution, they can't simply change providers and keep the solution they have in place.
Contracts. So many managed service providers and VARs underestimate the importance of proposals and contracts. They don't understand how important it is to document the obligations that you have, what the customer is buying and what they're not buying, what liability limitations that you have, what the renewal rates are, what the assignability is. Assignability is when maybe if you sell your business, how can you assign that contract to the buying company? You want to make sure that you really define what it is you're selling, how it is the customer interactions will occur, how the fees are going to work, and then
things that are out of there.
The most important thing in any contract is the limitation of liability clause. The reality is you could bankrupt your business in 2 seconds by something that has nothing to do with your personal failure. A product that you sold that customer may not work as promised. The customer may have an issue. Something that has nothing to do with you, was not caused by you, has nothing to do with your team, could bring your business down if you don't have a great limitation of liability clause. The closer you are with your customers, the more you document, the more investment you have in that contract to make sure that there's more time invested in explaining what is and is not included in that agreement. The last thing you want is for a solution to cause a rift in your personal relationships. You also wanted to talk about the fees that you're making, how they grow with time. Don't forget to take into effect that over time, customers tend to grow and their data needs tend to grow. So you never want to come up with a fixed monthly fee for anything. It should go up as the customer gets larger, or in this case, their data usage grows. Maybe they get a new location. You never want to get yourself into a situation where you have downside risk as a business. The reality is the compensation and reward you get for offering your solution should go in line with the risk you're taking and the quantity of work and investment required to do that solution. Another thing that's important in contracts is to make sure that you think about the long term. So automatic price escalations are important. Inflation is going to be there in our country over time. We happen to be in a period where inflation is so low that people have forgotten to put in those escalations in their contracts. It's important to put that in there. If you're an MSP looking to sell your business, it's critically important that those contracts are assignable to a third party. And one of the magical things that we recommend at Marketopia is to get customers to sign long-term contracts. Everything that we do is geared toward getting customers to sign 3- and 5-year contracts for what it is you do for them. If you created a win-win environment, you'd be surprised how many customers will commit to you for the long term, which does nothing but secure your business, secure your revenue stream, and make sure that you're going to be around for the long term to take care of that customer. Contracts should also detail the products and services that you have. When does title transfer? Who retains ownership of that solution? A lot of time in managed services and cloud services, the customer actually doesn't technically own anything. So RMAs or return authorizations, those need to be detailed as well. Can they return things? It's especially important in business and disaster recovery because as people outgrow devices, sometimes they want to trade that in for a less cost device. Some services offer that, some do not. You want to make sure that that's clearly prescribed in your agreement. Same thing with termination and portability. If they get bought, does it automatically go to the new company? If they move locations, does that service automatically come with them? How do they terminate? Can they terminate? Is it a 3-year agreement with a 30-day out, or is it a straight 3-year agreement without an out? Make sure that you invest a lot of time and energy making sure your contracts are clear and concise. In my experience over time, any kind of fine print or difficult to understand terms and conditions in an agreement does nothing but create ill will in the long term. It eventually will come back to bite you. Customers are amazingly accepting of terms and conditions in an agreement when they're clear and easy to read, and frankly, it's difficult to dispute something that's very black and white in writing. In fact, I've gotten to the point where in my agreements, I recommend showing very right up front what's included in the solution, which is normal, but also what's not included in that solution. So it's very black and white. They can never go back and say, wait a minute, I thought I could spin up servers locally. You go back to the summary of services, you're like, see the grid? In the good solution, it didn't offer the ability to spin up a server locally. That's the kind of thing that you need to make very clear in your contracts. You then need to maintain that agreement. You need to audit the agreement, especially if there's metrics associated with business size or growth size or employee size or data consumption. Make sure that you're auditing those contracts, make sure your billing is done automatically. The most powerful thing there is when the system itself is integrated with your billing platform. There's a lot of great businesses
continuity and disaster recovery solutions that integrate with PSA tools where billing is automatic. You also want to make sure that insurance and risk management is actually in the contract. What you're promising to provide, whether it's a $1 million policy, $2 million, $20 million policy, you want to make sure that what insurance you're promising your customers is outlined in that agreement. And if you use it right, that can help you secure a customer, because you'd be shocked how many VARs and MSPs do not have insurance. So by offering that simple thing, the low-cost version of general liability or errors and omissions insurance, you can actually use that as a competitive advantage to poke holes in those pesky competitors that have a very low cost of service because they're not doing the right thing by their client. They don't have the right insurance. They're not protecting the interests of their customers well, and frankly, that affects their cost basis. They're able to offer a lower cost solution, but there's a downside to the customer. By bringing up the fact that you're doing it right and doing the right thing, you're going to create holes in that competitor's arguments and have them more likely to choose you. Service level agreements. What are your agreements? What's your response time? What's your resolution time? How quickly will you be able to restore? Can you pick any point in time to restore back to? And frankly, how long is it going to take for you to recover individual granular level items? Can you recover just a mailbox, just a file, just a folder, just a server? Or do you have to recover everything? Make sure all those things are outlined in that service level agreement. In my experience, customers love the response time SLA. We promise to respond to your issue in 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. The more they pay, the faster your response. The most important thing, though, is to not promise resolution, because resolution depends on things that are outside of your control. For example, if the power is out in your customer office, it's going to take you longer to recover that customer's environment than if the power is on. That simple example outlines why you never want to promise a particular resolution time. Where that gets a little bit easier is when you're in the cloud, right? When things aren't going to go down like they are. You want to cover your bases. You want to understand your risks associated with recovery time, but always make sure you promise what you can deliver. There is one example where I actually recommend going against that, which is to offer 100% uptime. A lot of vendors will offer you a credit for any downtime that they have. By offering to your customers a 100% uptime guarantee, you're putting your money where your mouth is. You're actually offering that customer a credit for every minute they're down equal to the cost of providing that services for that minute. So of course it's a prorated version of the service. If they're down for a day, you give 1/30th of the cost back to them in a credit. The vendor gives it to you, you give it to the customer. But that does a tremendous amount to align interests with the customer and give the customer a sense of comfort that your interests are aligned with theirs, that downtime to you is downtime to them, and the reality is you're on the same team. You want to make your assurances. It goes back to the recovery time objective, which is how quickly can you recover, recovery point objective, which is how can you pick any point in time in which to recover back to, and then the granularity. These are assurances that should be baked into your SLAs. From a performance specialization, you want to make sure that you really limit the customization of service level agreements. It's difficult to scale an environment where everyone has a different agreement. It's difficult to manage. It's difficult to keep that away and separated. Even if you have a PSA tool, it can get difficult to manage. And so we really recommend resisting changes to your contracts. But to do that, you have to have good contracts to start off with, because if you have a very bad contract, it's going to be more likely to be rejected by customers. So create a professional contract, have it reviewed by an attorney, make sure you're protecting yourself and your customers. And make sure that any kind of amendments, that you create an amendment for any kind of assumption of risk that the customer is taking. For example, if they're implementing a solution that does not meet your recommendation, you're effectively absolving some responsibility for results. You want to document that in addendum. The easiest example would be on the hardware side in this case, and when it comes to disaster recovery. If you're recommending a 5 terabyte device and they're implementing a 3 terabyte device, you want to make sure you put that in the addendum, that they're assuming the risk of maybe growth being in excess of their expectations. Another example might be if they choose to implement an antivirus solution that doesn't match your recommendation, they're assuming the risk of that antivirus solution not performing properly. One option is to take, anytime you have a contract that has a lot of customizations, you charge a premium for it. If it's really important for that customer to have those customizations, you can pass on the expense of administering those contracts to the customer. With all managed services, one of the risks that you face is the fact that the better the job that you do, the less they see you. The more uptime you have, the less downtime they have, which means you're at their office more and you're talking to them more. What that can do over time is to degrade your relationship. People, even though the better the job you do, the least problems they have, they still see value in physical participation, physical support. So you want to make sure you're developing that relationship. We like to see quarterly business reviews with all of your customers to talk about things, to demonstrate that you're monitoring, to sort of demonstrate what it is you do. There's a great technology called Bright Gauge. It's a solution that's integrated with a lot of RMM and PSA tools that sends automatic reports to customers. Very, very low cost solution, very, very powerful and efficient way to communicate to your customers the value of ongoing monitoring, ongoing support, and the value that they're getting for paying that monthly fee. So you should really make sure that you invest in touch points, physical touch points as well as digital touch points with your customers to make sure that you're demonstrating value on a regular basis. Don't forget, just like with your business, it's difficult to write that check every month, especially when there hasn't been a problem where they felt like they need it. So by continually developing that relationship, investing in it, communicating with the customers, they're going to see and feel the value that they get. It's not just some intangible value that's done by some remote workforce. It's physical. They can see it. They can hold that report that shows that you're monitoring their device, you're looking out for their business, and you're delivering on the promises that you gave them. But you want to build all those costs, of course, into your pricing and your contracts. You may offer premium customer support, premium relationship investment, if you will. More time with the customer might be on some of your higher level plans. So how do you take it to market? Sales and marketing is the key. Of course, nothing happens on the service side until you sell something, and you can't sell something until you get a lead. So here are some great metrics that you can use to manage your sales and marketing efforts. Now, a lot of people choose to do marketing themselves or maybe rely on word of mouth marketing. Marketopia, we certainly don't recommend that. The reality is that word of mouth marketing is the equivalent of giving other people the future of your business, putting the control for your future in someone else's hands. So we recommend taking a proactive approach to marketing, pursuing leads, pursuing business growth, because if you're not growing, you're shrinking. Remember, a percentage of your customers are dissatisfied at any given point in time, and your competitors are calling on your customers each and every month, asking them to switch. So you always want to make sure you're playing offense while you play defense. How you do that is to start a defined marketing an effort, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the future. Some of the marketing objectives that you can use are lead generation. How many leads did you actually generate? How many sales appointments did your sales team actually go on? How many new accounts did you acquire in that particular period? What's your revenue look like? What's your margin? What's your profit look like? What's your average sales side? How many customers you have under each solution or as an overall firm? What's your average revenue per account? What's your monthly recurring revenue? And what are your utilization rates? How much revenue are you generating for each service provider is the ideal way to measure utilization. It's a term that I call efficiency, which is how many revenue dollars on the services side can you generate for each payroll dollar. The other way to do that is by how many hours out of a 40-hour week you're able to get from your engineers. That's what I call utilization. So many people ask, on the marketing side, what works? And the reality is everything works if you do it properly. So many managed service providers try and fail and give up. And the reality is that if you think about it, the most successful firms in the world tend to have robust marketing programs. Of course, they try, they fail. Look at Microsoft. Was the Surface tablet successful in round one? No. Did they give up trying? Absolutely not. They kept the marketing going. They kept evolving the product. They kept getting better each time. And eventually the marketing and the product became good enough to generate leads and sales. And now the Surface is a great product for Microsoft. So you want to develop white papers within your organization that detail some of the things that you've achieved, some of the results you've achieved, maybe some of your higher profile accounts or maybe the accounts that maybe use many of your services. You can create white papers that can convey the value without having a customer testimonial that can obviously be inconvenient for the one giving it. You can also create a capabilities presentation where you outline what your firm's capabilities are so that you can present them to the market. Technical briefs are something that a lot of managed service providers lean on the marketing side. They're important. You still have to talk about the speeds and feeds and the bits and bytes. You just don't want to lead with that. So technical briefs are part of the solution, but I like to see them as an appendix, right? You have business-oriented value communicated and demonstrated in the form of a proposal, marketing collateral, white papers, and then the technical briefs are in the appendice of their proposal. They're there. Some customers love looking at them. Some customers take a great deal of interest in that, but the vast majority of customers are looking to someone that they can trust to give them the right solution for your business. Marketing collateral must always be important. We like to see industry sell sheets for each industry that you serve so that you demonstrate your capability of supporting that industry, but also solution sell sheets. What capabilities you have at implementing the solution that you're putting in front of the customer. That's called marketing collateral. And then finally, there's marketing programs and materials. Each month you should have an ongoing series of marketing activities to generate inbound and outbound leads. Because marketing creates leads. Leads are then converted into sales by the sales team. Sales team obviously creates clients, which then form a base of ongoing referrals into your marketing organization. So you as an MSP should implement a collection of ongoing marketing initiatives, including a great website, search engine optimization and marketing, social media, newsletters, email blast and newsletter marketing. We love to see seminars and webinars, what we call demand generation events, to pull customers together. That can complement an outbound sales force that's actually setting appointments for you. The reality is, creating a robust marketing program produces a robust collection of inbound leads. A reliable source of inbound leads creates a leveling of your revenue and ensures that your revenue continues to go up with time. But don't forget about those referrals. A lot of people depend solely on referrals to grow their business, and referrals are key, but the most successful referral programs involve a marketing component. In other words, a constant touching base with those referral partners to find out if they have any business for you, to make sure that you're top of mind if any of their prospects, customers, or business network has any that you can help with. White papers, they're a must read. White papers are not easy to create. Professional white paper can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $40,000. So you want to make sure it's written by a professional. Keep it short and sweet. Make sure there's visual elements in there, graphs and charts, pictures of equipment, different things that kind of can create visual interest. You want to make sure that the subject is actually consistent through the document. Make sure that there's a flow to what it is the story you're trying to tell, the case study that you're trying to describe. And then you want to make sure you end it with a very strong summary. I love to see case studies that end with hardcore results. 5% increase in sales, 10% increase in profit, employee satisfaction that went from 10% to 92%. Strong metrics that really convey the bottom line value that your solution provided your customers. Capabilities presentation. This is kind of an outline of your business, what it is you do, how it is you do it. These are bright and tight. These are 15, 30-minute type presentations that really graphically and professionally convey the high level or difficult to understand capabilities of your organization. For example, managed services, some of the concepts in that are easier shown than talked about. So you want to make sure that you invest in a PowerPoint or maybe a Prezi type slide to really talk about the capabilities of your organization. You then want to keep that updated, keep it fresh, keep it interesting, and most importantly, keep it accurate. Nothing can really turn off a customer than to get to a slide that doesn't apply anymore or maybe goes against what it is you're telling them. So keep those presentations updated. Technical briefs, these are the ones that are about functions, features, and benefits. You want to use the vendor-provided content as a foundation, but make sure you put it in your own skin. Make sure it's professional and follows your brand image, your color scheme, things like that. You want to make sure that you have a technical brief for each technical solution and again, include them as part of the proposal, but ensure they're not your entire proposal. Your marketing collateral should be good. Make sure that you're presenting a professional image from the point you give them a business card to the time you get them a proposal. If you want them to sign that proposal, you want to make sure that they perceive you as being of a high professional, highly capable, highly intelligent, highly reliable, and most importantly, a very trustworthy solution provider. You want to train your sales force on how to use them. The reality is a poorly presented proposal is almost as bad as a bad proposal. All right. Now that you've got your solution, you've got your plan, how are you going to go to market? Of course, the first thing you want to do is create a plan. How are you going to take it to market? I recommend starting your go-to-market strategy with your existing customers. You want to look in your existing customer base where you have established trust, establish relationships, and identify the customers that would most easily benefit from this solution. What are the customers most likely to purchase? Start with them. You can learn lessons on them, They're going to be more understanding than maybe a new customer, but they're also going to be more likely to buy because you know their business better than maybe a prospective customer. So you're going to go and find out your ideal customer profile by working within your customer base. And then you want to establish a review cycle. Make sure you learn from the experience, both on the sales side and the service side. Make sure that each success and each failure you improve as an organization. That way your go-to-market strategy can adjust and adapt to make sure that it's more and more successful with time. If you have this culture of assessing each campaign that you do from a marketing perspective, each implementation that you do from a service perspective, making adjustments so that the next time you become better, it's a culture of never-ending improvement cycles. Each thing you do gets better and better with time. With your launch plan, you want to create what we call a 30, 60, 90 plan. What are your goals for your 30 days, first 60 days, and first 90 days? What products are you going to launch? What are your first customers? How are you going to generate publicity? Do you use a PR firm? Do you create your own press release? Do you promote yourself in the local newspaper? Establish sales objectives. How many sales are you going to have? You want to initiate field testing to get your services team comfortable with the environment. And then, of course, you want to collect feedback, both from your service team and from your prospects and your customers. Know what they like, know what they don't like, learn from the experience to make sure you constantly improve. You then want to limit your product or launch your products. The key there is to make sure that you limit your launches to a finite number of technical solutions at any given point in time so that you're good at what it is you do. Don't come to market with 10 solutions if you're a two-person company, because the chance of you becoming great on all 10 solutions at the same time is very slim. So you might come to market with one solution at a time, or maybe two solutions. Limit what you're doing to make sure that you're good at what you do, not only at servicing, but also selling. It's good to focus on specific customer segments. I love to see marketing and sales that's targeted to a particular industry or a particular company type. For instance, the marketing approach that you would get to go after a 5-person florist company is very different from going after a 1,000-person medical device equipment manufacturer, for example. You want to make sure that your marketing speaks to the industry, speaks to the recipient. Make sure that you know that industry enough to communicate the business value based on their business needs, not just some generic business need. And finally, to make sure that you understand what the buy signals are. Are there industry regulations? Are there legal requirements? Are there customer expectations that you may not know about? By working on a finite number of customer segments at a time, you can learn more and invest more in each individual customer segment, which improves the probability of success over time. And then you want to generate repeatable implementations. You want to document those processes, make refinements. Each time you implement, you learn lessons, you improve your documentation. I love there's a book called The Checklist Manifesto. It's one of those simple ways to create process documentation that people actually use. So many people either don't have any documentation, they fall into sort of that E-myth problem where they haven't documented procedures, therefore they're different each time, therefore results are inconsistent. But by using more of a checklist process, it's a very easy way for you to create a process that's repeatable and executed consistently regardless of who does it. You want to establish your customers first. You want to create a customer list that is applicable to each product. You want to mine your existing counts. Leverage the relationship that you've invested in that customer for over the years. Seek some early adopters. And then publicity. Do not underestimate the power of the press. 2 examples there, right? 1, if you can get an article written in a paper about a new service you're offering, it's more powerful than 10 advertisements in the same newspaper. The second trick I'll tell you is this technology or this website called PR Web. It allows you to distribute your press release on a global scale instantly. Why that matters to you is that if you architect your press release properly, taking into account all the key search terms that people search for in your market, one press release can drastically affect the search engine optimization for your website. Publicity is one of those things that pays for itself many, many, many times over, yet too many MSPs underestimate the value. You want to piggyback on events. We love lunch and learns and webinars. Okay, people like to get together. People like to physically see products. People like to physically see engineers, service providers. It's a great way to get prospects to your office, to tour your knock, to really meet the people behind the business. And so don't hesitate to when you create a launch especially for an exciting thing like disaster recovery and business continuity, you can create a splash. I'll give you an example. Every newspaper likes to do a story on the start of a season. For instance, if you're on a coastal area, maybe a hurricane season, every newspaper does that. So if you create some sort of a press, some sort of an activity, some sort of a product launch around that time of the year, the probability of the newspaper or television channel picking that up and marketing it is actually very good, and it can create a lot of valuable brand recognition for your company. Of course, marketing isn't the end of it. You gotta sell, right? How many referrals are you going to get? How many meetings are you going to get? How many product demonstrations are you going to have? Are you going to put proof of concepts out there to get your initial customers on board and to develop those case studies around the particular product? But of course, at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is closed sales. You got to make sure you monitor that to make sure you're getting the results you need from your marketing and sales efforts. Get feedback from your customers. Encourage feedback, good feedback and bad feedback, so you can learn from it. And then finally, field testing. Make sure that you deploy at your customer sites. You're looking at performance, both technical performance of the solution as well as performance from the customer's perspective. Are they happy with your services team? Do they see value in what it is you're doing? Allows you to assess what it is you're implementing from a product perspective and the quality of the service that you're providing. Measure utilization and don't be afraid to make adjustments. The best businesses in the world change constantly, ever improving, ever reinventing themselves. That brings us to the end of session 2 of the Disaster Recovery and Business Continuity Blueprint series. We hope you've learned a great deal about how you can implement a disaster recovery and business continuity practice within your business, something that can generate revenue and profit for years to come. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me or your Synex representative. We're here to help. Our goal is simple, to help you create a profitable and successful disaster recovery and business continuity practice within your business. Thank you very much.